Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Diamond News Desk at 8. I want to bring you the biggest news stories of the day from across the country. Here are the headlines. In the news tonight, government moves to evict land encroachers at Munali Secondary School, and farmers, consumer groups caution government on maize exports. Later in the news, Lunda chiefs raise concern of a poor road network in Luapula province. I'll be back with the details of these and more stories shortly. You're watching the Diamond News Desk at 8. Thank you for joining us. To present the news in detail, my name is Cosmas Chongo Malenga. Government has sounded a stern warning to individuals who have illegally occupied Munali Secondary School land, with Education Minister Douglas Siakalima revealing that action will be taken within days and stressing that no one should cry about not having been warned. Accompanied by Munali Member of Parliament Mike Mposha, the minister says the encroachment not only breaches the law but also robs future leaders of vital educational space. Mr. Mposha has emphasized that the crackdown will not spare members from any political party, whether PF or UPND, as the law applies equally to all. He commends former Lusaka Province Minister Bowman Lusambo that this is the only logical thing he did when he moved in to correct the illegality. They were speaking during a tour of the affected area where government officials found several illegal developments already in place, including a fuel station, residential houses and perimeter wall fences. And lawyer Friday Bessa, representing the alleged encroachers, says the matter is before court and any government official is not supposed to make any statements regarding the matter. Here are the details.
Encroachment of public property has become rampant in the country, with schools, forests, and other state institutions losing land to illegal occupation. Now, Munali Secondary School, Counter Square, and Tunduya schools have become the latest flashpoint as government vows to reclaim the school's land from encroachers. Minister of Education Douglas Siakalima says, in the coming days, action will be taken and those affected should not cry.
Once you have got some title in a ministry, you connive and go and give yourselves title deeds. It will not work. And I know some person was saying that, no, because we are going into election, 100 people, you can take your vote, your 100 people take your vote away. Who will save the majority. I'm saving 2 million children. Those 2 million children will vote for Hakainde. 100 of you, get out. Go away. Including officials. If you are an official from the Ministry of Lands, if you are an official from the council, Lusaka City Council, if you are an official from my ministry, you are gone.
Munali Member of Parliament Mike Mposha says the encroachment robs future generations of vital space, warning that neither PF nor UPND members will be spared. He also commended former Lusaka Province Minister Bowman Lusambo, saying his move to try and remove the encroachers was the only logical thing he did in office.
We took action and reported to the provincial administration then, under the leadership of Bowman Lusambo, who swung into action. At least for once, Bowman Lusambo did something very logical, maybe for once. Seriously, he moved in and some structures were demolished. Honorable Minister, they took legal action against the government and later on opted for a consent judgment. And in that consent judgment, government was being directed to compensate those whose structures were demolished, those who built illegally.
Encroach and give themselves those pieces of land. That is an illegality and it will not be accepted. As far as we are concerned, and as Minister of Lands, we are only available to deal with issues that are clear and straightforward. Anything to do with unauthorized encroachment or trying to illegally allocate land to themselves in the name of the party or using whichever name, that certainly will not be allowed.
During a tour of the land, officials discovered a fuel station, residential houses and perimeter wall fences already standing allegedly on the school's property. And lawyer representing some of the residents explains that the matter is before court.
There is a consent judgment and it resolved the matter. The government itself decided to take back the matter to court to challenge the consent judgment. And the consent judgment that I'm talking about, they are the ones that wrote to us saying, let's resolve. After they noticed that, in my view, they didn't have a strong case. But somehow, like I said, somebody decided to say, let's challenge it. And the matter has not yet proceeded to trial. So I would not expect any government official who has full information, like the information that I'm sharing with you, or who has been properly briefed, to go to the site and, start making press statements. Because the matter is indeed sub judice, the matter is in court, and the position of the law is very clear. Where the matter is still in court, people shouldn't shouldn't interfere with the process.
While government has promised swift action, questions remain on whether they will indeed move in to demolish the illegal structures, especially with the matter still tied up in the courts. Victoria Kayeye Yambani, Diamond News.
Now, the National Association for Smallholder Farmers in Zambia, NASFA, has urged governments to exercise caution over maize exports, warning that excessive sales could threaten national food security. In an interview, Association Executive Director Dr. Frank Kayula says while maize exports create larger market opportunities for the country, it is crucial to adhere strictly to the set quantities earmarked for export. He warns that over-exporting could deplete reserves, especially in light of the drought experienced during the 2024 and 2025 farming seasons. Meanwhile, the Zambia Consumer Association, ZACA, has called for stronger monitoring mechanisms to ensure only the authorized 500,000 metric tons are exported. And ZACA Secretary Juba Sakala said government should also publish a list of all entities and individuals granted export licenses to prevent anyone from exceeding the approved quota.
Government, during its cabinet meeting, approved the export of surplus maize grain and mealie meal amounting to over 500,000 metric tons to various countries in the region.
Cabinet has approved the exportation of 63,883 metric tons of maize grain, part of which is early maize, at 28,883 metric tons, and maize held by the members of the Grain Traders Association of Zambia, totaling 35,000 metric tons, and a total of 350,189 metric tons of mealie meal to countries within the region.
Commenting on this decision, the National Association for Smallholder Farmers in Zambia, NASFA, has urged government to exercise caution, warning that excessive maize exports would threaten national food security.
We are cognizant of what we have gone through. The fact that we have got under this drought situation, and we had some people who actually suffered hunger, although they didn't die. So we appeal to the Ministry of Agriculture to be cautious. Let them allow exports, but they should be cautious so that they are literally deducting. We have allowed 100,000. We're not going to allow more than 500,000 because from the stocks committee, we are aware that from the 3.6 million that we produced, and if you add that which was in stock, available grain was actually about 4 million metric tons in the
Meanwhile, in a statement, Zambia Consumer Association, ZACA, Secretary Juba Sakala, said, and I quote, "While we understand that government needs to raise revenue, it is important to ensure this process is managed transparently and responsibly. We urge the government to first publish a list of all entities and individuals granted export licenses, as this will help prevent any party from exceeding the approved quota. In addition, a strong monitoring mechanism should be put in place to ensure that only the authorized 500,000 metric tons are exported." During the 2023-2024 farming season, Zambia experienced an El Nino-induced drought which significantly affected 84 out of the country's 116 districts across Central, Copperbelt, Eastern, Lusaka, Northwestern, Southern, and Western provinces. Cherish Sibote for Diamond News.
Farmers in Kazungula's Simulwe farming camp and Chief Nyawa are raising concerns over the shortage of empty Food Reserve Agency FRA bags. They say that the lack of bags has left their harvested grain exposed to harsh weather, risking spoilage, and are urging the agency to supply adequate packaging. Kazungula District Commissioner Elias Siamivila has urged the Food Reserve Agency to attend to farmers' concerns. When contacted for comment, Food Reserve Agency FRA Public Relations Officer John Chipandwe said the agency was still consolidating reports and would respond once the process is complete.
Farmers in Kazungula District, southern Zambia, have recorded a bumper harvest and are ready to sell their produce to the Food Reserve Agency. Their efforts are being hampered by several challenges. At Nyawa Satellite Depot, the farmers are struggling with a shortage of empty FRA grain bags.
Masaka ma empty. Mashonto our so far ma empty aliwo kulivyo about 1 pin. Ona maupwe aliwawa manji ataninga kupimwa. Ayandikana kuti apimwe. Onya takwe masaka. Sono turomba government yuti ifambane kututumina masaka. Chakufambana kamba kuti this time imasaka yangotwaka awatwakala 1 month. Onya tusaka tuya tuli kwandauka. Onya swe kulindiswe kusai kumulimi ni loss. Atwali kulomba government
nilomba mfulumende itupa kuti katubereka adepo ya kwa Nyawa. So tulomba kuteti patuyungizize kwa kumulimo ngotubereka mupati wa kusumanga tofa kuyaswanyereti. Patuyungizize kwa tumali.
Kazungula District Commissioner Elias Siamivila has called on the Food Reserve Agency to urgently step in and provide the necessary support.
What we need is FRA to quickly, the depots that have been opened, let them now become functional. I'm aware right now that the areas like Sichifuro, people have already stuck more than 50,000 bags outside. So just that alone, it tells you to say farmers are serious to sell to FRA.
When contacted for comment, the Food Reserve Agency said they were still consolidating reports and would respond once the process is complete. Gabriel Desas Mova, Diamond News, Southern Zambia.
Well, before we go on our first set of commercials, here's the weather update for today, but also our editorial comment.
This is your diamond insight of selling maize surplus without selling out the future. Cabinet's decision to approve the export of more than 500,000 metric tons of surplus maize grain and milli meal signals confidence in Zambia's agricultural productivity and market competitiveness. Following a bumper harvest in the 2024-2025 farming season, the country now boasts of a total stock of over 4 million metric tons, well above the projected annual national requirement of 3.5 million metric tons for human consumption, industrial use and strategic reserves. Exporting the surplus has clear economic advantages. Regional demand for maize and maize products remains strong, offering Zambia an opportunity to earn foreign exchange, stimulate rural incomes and enhance the country's trade profile. For farmers and agribusinesses, this move could create a more reliable market, reduce post-harvest losses and encourage investment in production and processing capacity. In the longer term, such policies can help position Zambia as a regional food hub, attracting both domestic and foreign investment into the sector. However, the benefits must be weighed against potential risks. Regional droughts, climate variability or pest outbreaks could sharply reduce future harvests, making today's surplus tomorrow's shortage. Large-scale export also risks pushing domestic prices upward if not carefully managed, affecting household affordability, particularly for low-income consumers who rely on milli meal as a staple food. Additionally, logistical and administrative challenges in export management could create inefficiencies or open the door to illicit trade. The key therefore lies in maintaining a cautious, data-driven approach. The National Food Balance Sheet provides a strong framework, but it must be complemented by real-time monitoring of weather patterns, market prices and production focus. Safeguards such as flexible export quotas and well-maintained strategic reserves will be critical to ensuring that the nation's food security is not compromised in pursuit of short-term economic gains. Zambia's bumper harvest is a success story worth celebrating, but it also demands prudent stewardship. The challenge for policymakers is to convert agriculture abundance into both sustainable economic growth and long-term food security. Achieving this balance will determine whether this moment is remembered as a turning point for prosperity or a cautionary tale.
Business News is brought to you by Zambia Industrial Commercial Bank. Zambia Industrial Commercial Bank, making tomorrow possible.
Hello, welcome to the Business News Update tonight on the Diamond News Desk at 8. Here are the top stories. Bank of Zambia holds monetary rate at 14.5%, and CEC Renewables boosts solar output amid Zambia's power deficit. Later on, we'll take a look at the money markets, but also we'll take a look at some commodity prices. All this coming up tonight in business. Well, let's now the details of the Business News Update tonight. My name is Cosmas Chongo Malenga. The Bank of Zambia, BOZ, has maintained the monetary policy rate at 14.5% for the third quarter of 2025. Governor Danny Kalialia says the decision follows a continued decline in inflation, which has fallen to 13% since the last Monetary Policy Committee MPC meeting. Dr. Kalialia has noted that keeping the rate unchanged will support the consolidation of the economic gains achieved so far. And the governor, who was speaking during the monetary policy rate press briefing, says the central bank has so far withdrawn 9.9 billion kwacha old notes from the bank, representing, and this was from the market as well, representing 44.4%. And Dr. Kaliala further says the central bank is on course in distributing the new notes on the market, with the new 100 kwacha and 50 kwacha notes expected to be released in September this year, according to the schedule.
The Bank of Zambia's Monetary Policy Committee has once again kept the policy rate steady at 14.5%, following its latest meeting held on the 11th and 12th August 2025. Speaking during the monetary policy announcement and press briefing in Lusaka on Wednesday, Bank of Zambia Governor Dr. Danny Kalialia says the decision comes as inflation continues to ease, falling from 14.1% in June to 13% in July.
While recognizing these positive developments, the committee noted that at the current level that inflation is, at the current level of inflation, we note that it's well above the 6 to 8% target band. That's about 5 percentage points. And at the same time, we note some uncertainties that are stemming from the global trade policies that are being pursued, and then there are persistent geopolitical tensions. Fourth, the committee also observed that although market expectations of inflation have moderated, they remain high relative to the target band. I think we have in the past explained that we do survey the market on what they expect inflation to be, what they expect the exchange rate to be in the period ahead. What we have observed in that connection is that, yes, they are revising their expectations, but they are still quite elevated. The committee, therefore, decided to maintain the policy rate at 14.5%. The decision will also allow the consolidation of the gains that we have so far made on inflation.
The central bank projects that inflation will drop into its 6 to 8% target range by the first quarter of 2026.
In terms of months of import cover, the value may be different, but when you divide those two numbers, you still come back to 4.6 months of import cover. I think it's important here to point out as well that those of you who have had access, which is on the web, the report, the IMF report on the 5th review of the ECF, this is the extended credit facility that we have with them. You note their observation on our accumulation of reserves, that in comparison to similarly placed countries, we are actually doing a lot better in that space.
Dr. Kalialia has also announced that the central bank is on course with the issuance of 50 kwacha and 100 kwacha notes, adding that the denominations will be in circulation starting 1st September 2025.
The notes, they have been distributed throughout the countries through our channels. So come 1st of September, you can access the 50 kwacha and the 100 kwacha notes.
The central bank has also revealed that gross international reserves stood at $4.7 billion at the end of June, while business activity strengthened on the back of higher agricultural output and favorable private sector conditions. Rachel Mumba for Diamond News.
Now, as Zambia continues to grapple with a persistent power deficit, Copperbelt Energy Corporation CEC Renewables Limited has posted a strong half-year performance, reinforcing its role in supporting the nation's electricity supply. According to CEC Renewables Assets Manager Hilton Fulele, the company's Riverside and Intimpi solar photovoltaic PV plants in Kitwe achieved a 99.9% electricity availability rate in the first half of 2025, producing 80.75 gigawatt hours of power, 32% more than the same period last year. Mr. Fulele says this boosted revenues to about $4.7 million as a 35% rise from the $3.44 million recorded in 2024. He says the company's renewables also paid $3.97 United States dollars in coupon payments, and this was to green bond note holders, representing a 64% increase from the previous year. He adds that profits grew by 236%, supported by higher revenues and interest earned on cash reserves for the planned Intimpi 2 expansion project. Well, that's the business news stories we had for you today, but now let's take a look at the money market. For the money markets today, as of end of business day, which was the 13th of August, I beg your pardon, this is how much the United States dollar was buying and selling at. Buying, the United States dollar was buying at 23.3 way 03 and it was selling at 23 kwacha 40 ngwe. These are the average commercial rates of the two currencies as of today. Now, let's take a look at the commodity prices for construction. For the construction commodities today, we have two items that we're going to take a look at, and we're starting with this particular Redavis RB48 P walkie-talkie, and it's going at 2,757 kwacha. And this is just one of the construction commodities we have for you today. We have another construction commodity, which is a hammer drill, 18 millimeters, and this is inclusive both the body and the case, and it's going at 7,038 kwacha. Those are your construction commodities. But now let's take a look at the food and the non-food items. Well, we'll start off with the food items. Beef, 1 kg is going at 110 kwacha. Sugar, 2 kg is between 67 and 70 kwacha. For Nakonda rice, 5 kg is going at 175 and 119, between that range. And a tray of eggs is costing 95 and 115 kwacha, and between that particular range too. For cooking oil, 2.5 liters is going at between 164 and 180 kwacha. And for mealie meal breakfast, 10 kg is in between 130 and 150 kwacha. For 10 kg of roller mealie meal, it's in between 100 and 120 kwacha. These are just some of the commodity prices for the food items. But now, let's shift our attention to the non-food items. We start off with toilet paper, 10 rolls are costing 85 kwacha, while 175 grams of toothpaste is between 37 and 40 kwacha. A bar of multi-purpose soap is in between 35 and 45 kwacha, while washing powder, 500 grams is in between 40 and 45, and bathing soap, 1 bar is in between 19 and 47. And liquid hand wash is selling at 45 kwacha for 750 meals. Those are the commodity prices that we had for you today, as well as the business news stories and the money markets, which conclude the business news update tonight. After this, we'll be back with construction news.
Business news was brought to you by Zambia Industrial Commercial Bank. Zambia
Welcome back. You're still watching the Diamond News Desk at 8. Now time for our construction news update tonight. And coming up, Kasomeno, Mwenda Road project gears up for completion. That is the story we have for you today on the construction news update. But let's take a look at the details now. Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development Charles Melupi has stressed the importance of completing the Kasomeno Mwenda Road project on schedule, noting that it will play a key role in boosting trade between Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Speaking during a tour of the project in Maize district, Mr. Melupi says the government is committed to ensuring that infrastructure development benefits every part of the country, thereby driving economic growth. And Wapula Province Minister Nelson Musonda has highlighted the need to improve the province's road network, pointing to the Pedico Road, Chilengi Road and Tuta Road as critical routes for opening up the region and connecting it to the other markets.
Luapula Province continues to lag behind in road infrastructure development, hindering economic opportunities from reaching the region. Chiefs in Maize have noted that key roads in Luapula remain in poor condition, depriving the area of much-needed investment and trade.
Our area has lagged behind in many areas of important development. We have seen in other provinces having railway line as back as the time of our colonial masters. But here in Luapula, we have just 4 major roads: Tuta Road, Bufulira Pedico, Mansa Road, and Mansa and Chirenge Road. We need more roads in Luapula, like in Chirenge, Lunchinda Road, which is in a very deplorable state. Even the above-mentioned roads needs immediate attention.
Chief Kashiba raised these concerns with the Minister of Infrastructure and Urban Development, emphasizing the need to incorporate a local participation in major projects such as the Kasomeno Mwenda Road project.
Many times, people are coming here from different parts. They are claiming that they are coming from our villages. But in actual fact, we are receiving people as far as Northwestern Province, taking the job as general workers. So we are proposing that traditional leadership has to be involved to identify the locals, more especially the skills that cannot be available.
In response, the minister stressed that government is taking steps to rehabilitate all key wards as part of efforts to drive infrastructure development and unlock the province's full economic potential.
The PEDICO, we are working on finalizing contracts. It has taken time because there were contractors that were put there that failed. I don't want to mention names of those contractors. So we are trying to have that corrected. In addition, there's been an application to get Mokambo, Chembe, all the way to Mansa as a PPP. We are still investigating that. Tuta roads, we are doing designs for an area across the Bangweo Flat, which is 20 kilometers that way from the bridge and 20 kilometers this way. This is the one that is so low that needs to be lifted up. So that is being done by RTA. So those are the two roads that come into Luapula. Within Luapula itself, one of the greatest priorities for us as government is from Kashikishi through to Mununga, through to Chiengi, that as a start. I think we are about to sign the contract for that. So work will start on that one.
Meanwhile, works on the Kasomeno Mwende Road project continue under the public-private partnership model, with road construction, bridge building, and a one-stop border post currently underway. Kalombe Kapambwe, Damo News.
Well, that's a story we had for you today on the Construction News Update. Coming up next is the mining news. You're still watching the Diamond News Desk at 8, and now time for the mining news update tonight. And here the stories coming up today. CSOs urge regulation of local miners. I'll be giving you the details of this particular story just now, and later on we'll take a look at some prices of the minerals themselves. But let's get into the details of our mining news update tonight. The consortium of civil society organizations, CSO, has called for actionable reforms to formalize artisanal and small-scale mining in Northwestern Province. Speaking at the Northwestern Provincial Alternative Mining Indaba held in Solwezi, Caritas Solwezi Director, this is Father Nowo Haninga, says there is urgent need for the government to establish laws that will allow artisanal and small-scale mining to enter the formal economy to curb exploitation, accidents and fatalities. And the Zambia Land Alliance has implored the government to revisit investment agreements made in the past by different governments in the mining sector to ensure a fair share of mineral resources for the country. Meanwhile, the government says it has taken strong steps to stop foreign-led illegal mining that historically exploited locals and dominated mining activities in Mufumwe and Kasempa districts.
As the government steps up efforts to curb illegal mining of various natural resources across the country, stakeholders in the Northwestern Province say there is an urgent need for measures to stop the exploitation of resources such as gold in the province. Speaking at the Provincial Alternative Mining Indaba held by the Consortium of Civil Society Organization in Solwezi, Caritas Solwezi has urged the government to establish laws that will allow artisanal and small-scale mining to enter the formal economy.
But because we have failed to regulate and formalize artisanal and small-scale mining, they are vulnerable to exploitation, accidents, and even death. We appeal to you, our government, through UPS, to give them a legal place in our economy. Let us bring them into the light with clear, just, and empowering laws.
The Zambia Land Alliance has urged the government to stop the blame game and instead review investment agreements made by the past governments.
Our call on government is to revisit the kind of investment agreements that we have signed with our partners, with the investors. The investors are not our enemies. We invited them and they came at our invitation. We signed agreements that have loopholes. And so it is our responsibility to revisit and negotiate and see how we can correct those 40 investments, agreements that we signed.
Fides Temba is Action Aid Country Director.
If we ask about how much these miners are selling our minerals outside the country, I think all of us in here would faint. Because even the debt we are talking about as a nation, if our leaders genuinely took stock of the minerals we have, we should not be talking about debt.
However, the government says it has taken strong steps to stop foreign-led illegal mining.
And if you look at things as they are now, the government is trying to put things in place so that our people start getting something. There's been a problem in Mfumbwe, in Kasempa. All of you did not understand why the president was saying, stop it. You didn't. Those of you who read in these things were condemning him. No, this copper is, no, this mineral is for the Zambians. But the ones who were there, who were the masters in those mining, were they Zambians? The ones who had the machines, those detectors, were they for Zambians? Those from Fumbwe, those from Kasempa, were those detectors for Zambians? No. So what it meant was that Zambians were just being used as cheap labor.
The 2025 Northwestern Provincial Alternative Mining Indaba has been held under the theme Translating Mineral Wealth into Tangible Benefit for Communities, Enhancing Local Participation, Value Addition and Environmental Stewardship in Northwestern Province. Mlenga Wadia, Diamond News, Solwezi, Northwestern Province.
Well, let's now take a look at the mining commodities that we have for you today, and here are some of them. We start off with aluminium. Aluminium by end of business day today was selling at $2,619 US$50, and it had a closing percentage of 1.22%, and this was an upward increase. But for copper, it saw the closing price of $9,840.50, and it saw an upward increase of 1.12% in the closing percentage. For zinc, it was selling at $2,847 US$50, and it saw an upward increase of 0.9%. For nickel, $15,332 was the price, and for it, unfortunately, it saw a downward decrease of 0.12%. And lead has a little different price there, as it was at $2,015.50, with an upward increase of 0.88% as a closing percentage. But for tin, it saw a closing price of $33,886, with an upward closing increase percentage of 0.24%. Those are your mineral commodities that we had for you today, which also conclude the mining news update tonight. After this, we'll continue with the Diamond News Desk at 8. Thank you for watching.
Mining News, sponsored by First Quanta Minerals Limited, operating Kansanshi Mining PLC, and FQM Trident Limited.
Welcome back to the Diamond News Desk at 8. In more news this evening, the Zambian government has pledged action towards the growing human-wildlife conflicts in Zambia's communities bordering game management areas and national parks. Tourism Permanent Secretary Evans Mohanga has told stakeholders during an engagement in Lusaka that the government recognizes the issue as not only an environmental challenge but also a social, economic and developmental concern. Mr. Mohanga said measures are being strengthened to expand deterrent interventions such as a game-proofing fence and chili-based repellents in affected areas. In recent weeks, Diamond News has reported several incidents in Livingstone and other parts of the country, highlighting the toll of human-wildlife conflicts from devastating crop losses to loss of life.
While elephants, like all wild animals, are a vital part of Zambia's tourism industry, national heritage and the livelihoods of many communities, there are growing conflicts with people endangering both human lives and the species themselves. In recent weeks, Livingstone, the nation's tourism capital, has been a hotspot for human-wildlife clashes, with farmers in Kasia among the most affected.
bonse bazulirwa umunzi okwasibusenga bakonongegerwa ziryo zakaligwa abazovu inabutegu zipesi tupopwe twaliwo ni kutensinzo twaliwo mbunamu yatunini buyo tokuliya buyo tusakato bile twaliwo.
Tensions recently escalated after residents of Dambo Site and Service Compound staged a protest over the death of a community member killed in an elephant attack.
Situation chitika kuna ku Livingstone monse makansela ma MP sekudambwa kuleja garden mulanganepo situation chitika kuna ku Livingstone siwama bafakire konzelu mwandini all patrolling wazista patrolling maona era chintu chimozi vima elephant vingo pa na last year vinapaya bantu bambili.
Breaking its silence, the government has pledged to work toward harmony between people and wildlife, seeking solutions that protect lives while preserving biodiversity. Tourism Ministry Permanent Secretary Evans Mohanga, speaking to stakeholders in Osaka on Wednesday, 13th August 2025, said the government is exploring alternative livelihoods to reduce dependence on high-conflict areas, among other solutions.
Even the loss of human life are a stark reminder of the urgency with which we must act, all of us. As a ministry, we recognize that human-wildlife conflict is not simply an environmental challenge, it is also a social, economic, and developmental issue. Of late, it has even become a very political issue. As you have heard in some of our communities, they think that government puts a premium.
Gabriel Jasas Mova, Diamond News, Southern Zambia.
Well, that story concludes the Diamond News Desk at 8 tonight. Thank you so much for making time to join us. My name is Cosmos Chongo Malenga. Good night.